Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Paul's Monday Market Update, number 175 for Monday, 3rd of March, 2025. As always, you're always very welcome, but just always remember that you are responsible for your own trading decisions. But this is British Aerospace Systems, okay, here. And, this is a weekly chart, okay. Fabulous uptrend as it has been for most of the last couple of years. But then I was talking about how we were in a little bit of a sideways block between about 1200 and 1400. But you can see, how we've started, okay, this week. And I find this fascinating. All right. I find this fascinating because, of course, what's happening is this is sentiment. This is people buying into defense stocks based upon, Europe now deciding that, it's been searching around, and not only has it found its money, but apparently it's also found its backbone. I remain to be convinced on both, but, as I said, that just might be me being a cynical old sod about that. But, what we can see is that and as I said earlier, I think the Germans are coming out sort of saying they're going to spend 400 billion plus, and a load of the other European countries. That is all well and good, and politicians love it. They get to grandstand, they get to stand about. The same Mr. Starmer, who has been, hammering home Rachel Reeves' message that, we had a 22 billion black hole, and but we had to give 18 billion to Chagos Islands, and we couldn't afford anything else. Suddenly manages to start pulling out the money when there's some, when the kind of war drums start. The kind of interesting thing about this, as I said, is there's a couple of things, but one of the big things is that even though European Union last year had up to 326 billion euros its defence spending, 80% of it was still spent outside of Europe because Europeans, we allowed our production capacity to wither. Production capacity is not something you just turn on overnight. So, for example, I read a piece at the weekend, a new sort of armored fighting vehicle that the UK is buying, Boxer. It takes about 27 days to build a Boxer. Okay, it's like it's like an armored fighting vehicle. The thing is, everyone looks at that and says, "Oh, that's great. We can build some in 27 days." What they missed out is that it takes 18 months in lead line to get all the parts together to actually to build these vehicles, and that is just an armored truck, really. When you start looking at some of the other pieces, okay, as I said, the kind of turnaround in terms of being able to actually buy these things and see them on the front line and make a difference, could be years away. All right. And furthermore, as I said, if 80% of the money is still being spent outside of Europe, well, then who else are you buying it from? The Finns maybe do a bit. Okay, the Turks do a bit with the drones. Okay, the Koreans do a bit shipbuilding. Japanese do a bit, but the vast majority is you're going to be buying from American defense companies. So European defence companies have bumped, while American defence companies have rolled over. But actually, the vast majority of that money is still, for the next couple of years at least, is still going to be going to American defence companies because there's nobody else, right? There is nobody else to buy it from. I suppose for those of you who have taken interest in what this probably has done is this has probably secured the Tempest next generation fighter aircraft, which was a UK, I think is it UK and Italy, and perhaps the Japanese, UK, Italy, and Japanese in. So invariably, what we're going to see is that we're going to see Europeans making decisions based upon politics rather than best kit. But then you might say it's always been that way. But invariably, it doesn't bother British Aerospace. You can see that's jumped there, right? That's just the start. Now, of course, that's the start of this week. We can see that that's a big gap. All right, that is a big gap, and as usual, gaps tend to fill. And so I'll be interested to see do we basically once the rhetoric and the enthusiasm wanes, do we actually sort of come back and fill the gap before we start to trudge our way north? That's what I'd be particularly looking when it comes to British Aerospace.